So when I met him, I said, hey, why do you say such lousy things about me? You never met me till now. But guess what? We talked, and I really think we like each other. One good thing American and Japanese business leaders did this week was to talk to each other. And maybe we should be doing a hell of a lot more of that. But ladies and gentlemen, I think it's time to make Japan not only understand the rules, but to start playing by them. And it might even be time to change some of the rules. That won't be easy. I've been dealing with the Japanese for a long time. I have immense respect for their ability to win at the negotiating table. One way they do it, of course, is they hire away our negotiators. In recent years, 1/3 of all our top trade negotiators, that's from the top down, have quit to become foreign lobbyists, most of them for the Japanese. So when you send someone over there to bring home the bacon for us, we don't know if he's doing a job for the U.S. or if he's just interviewing for his next job. So it's a hell of a problem. There are also a few other things we should have learned by now when it comes to dealing with Japan. First, our problems with Japan are unique. Now, we trade with, just think of this, with over 200 countries all over the world. But 2/3 of our deficit is with one out of those 200, one single nation, Japan. So we have a separate and distinct trade problem between ourselves and Japan, and that probably means we need a separate and distinct set of trade rules for Japan than we have for everybody else. Second, we have to deal both with Japan's closed market and Japan's business practices that affect this country. And I'm talking about things like the karetsu and dumping and control of our key technologies. Focusing only on opening up the Japanese market would be a mistake. We can get snookered if we spend all our energy prying it open, but by then our companies might be too weakened to take advantage of it. Third, and this comes from, believe me, bitter experience, be careful what you ask for, because you might get it. We twisted Japan's arm to quit artificially depressing the yen. Beginning with the Plaza Accord in 1985, the famous G5 meeting, they finally stopped. The yen, from that point forward, from 85 to today, doubled in value. That alone should have promoted an avalanche of exports and cut down on all the expensive imports. We thought the currency swing would even out the trade. Guess what? Since then, we've run up, since that meeting, we've run up almost $300 billion in red ink with Japan, and that translates into about 7 million jobs. So something is rotten, and it's not Denmark this time, it's Japan. The currency swing would have helped if Adam Smith's theories worked in a world of managed trade, but they don't. They're totally irrelevant. We went, during the same period, from 0 to 40,000 units in Europe in just a couple of years when the currency changed, but had a hell of a time getting to 1,000 in Japan. In that big market, which is about 7 million, remember that, we should be selling at least 25,000 units. By the way, Honda has sold for us 400, this is a grabber, right? 400 Cherokees for us so far. But this week, they really got generous with us. They promised to triple Jeep sales to 1,200 by 1994. And they would do this by tripling the dealers. So we got access. They're taking the 100 dealers who sell them to 300. That means by 1994, each of those dealers will sell a Jeep every 3 months. Wow, how the hell did we get so lucky over there, right? We also told Japan that if it wanted to sell in this market, it should manufacture in this market. Well, I guess we weren't too damn explicit. That was a hell of a mistake. Our mistake was taking them at their word when they said transplants would replace build-up imports under the so-called voluntary restraint rules. Nothing in writing, of course. We couldn't afford that because it was voluntary, so it couldn't be in writing. They reneged. 70% of the transplant capacity today is incremental to their build-ups. Since those, quote, restraints in 1981, 7 transplant facilities have opened, and a net of 9 Big 3 assembly plants have closed, and General Motors' announcement a few weeks ago is going to change that ratio considerably, I add, regrettably. In those 10 years, our auto deficit with Japan has gone from 14 billion to 30 billion. Every new job created here, and boy, do we hear a lot about that, has cost 2 old ones, and every new dollar contributed to America's economy drives out 2 old ones. We also find ourselves with a hell of a competitive disadvantage because the average transplant worker is 12 years younger and the cost of his labor is $12 an hour less. That's because all the new Japanese plants, except Mazda, in Flat Rock were built in cornfields. The younger workforce uses less health care, and they're about 20 to 22 years away from collecting any pensions at all. And the location of those plants has allowed the Japanese to duck any of the responsibilities of urban America. The big three workforce is 21% minority. The transplants have about 5% minorities. When you drive by our new Jefferson North plant, keep in mind that no Japanese company would ever consider building a plant like that in an inner city. No way. So the lesson in dealing with Japan is that you have to focus on results. You cannot focus on the process. They'll kill you. If you let them decide on the process and the timetable, you will never live long enough to see results. At least not the results you were looking for. And one of the results we should insist on as a nation, I mean, this isn't old-fashioned or square. We should insist on employment. The content of every Japanese import represents about 1% content, 1% American jobs. For the transplants, it represents about 48% at best. But for the big three, it's 88% is local content and jobs. It's pretty obvious where our priorities should be if the objective is to get Americans back to work. Ford, General Motors, and Chrysler create American jobs. And, of course, their suppliers are included in that. The Japanese do not create jobs. President Bush said it right when he started this trip. There's one gut issue, he said it. Jobs, jobs, jobs. Finally, we have to beware of the ancient art of Oriental patience. And, man, it is an art. They don't solve problems in Japan, they manage them. The Japanese are masters at making you peel the onion. You get through one layer and you're looking at another one, just like it. One year we negotiated on oranges, the next year it was beef, the next year tomato puree. Geez, 1 year ravioli. Can you believe this? And in the end, we were further and further behind. I used to believe myself that the Oriental long view was a great virtue and something we could learn from the Japanese. You know what? I was wrong. It's no virtue at all. It's a weapon. We have to disarm them if we're going to get anywhere at all. We need to use our own weapon. Good old-fashioned American impatience. That means demanding a solution to the problem now and retaliating now if we don't get it. We've already shown all the patience anyone could ask. Hell, 45 years of patience. First, we helped them rebuild, then we defended them. Then when they were fully recovered, we continued to allow them open access to our market while they shut us right out of theirs. We even had to listen to such crazy, insulting excuses as our skis aren't right for their snow because their snow's different and our construction companies don't understand. So we can't bid on any construction projects. Japan has a set of standard excuses every time they're called to task or given an objective. They say they create jobs in this country. Not true. Net, they cost us jobs by tens of thousands. Two, they say Japan's unique and deserves special treatment. I say Japan has had a free ride long enough. They say they're changing. They are not changing. The only changes that will take place in U.S.-Japan trade relations are those that we force them to make. They say if you criticize Japan, you must be a racist. That's just a weak attempt to cut off the criticism. That's all that is. And I take it for what it is. And finally, they say all of our problems are our fault. That's like blaming our Army and our Navy for Pearl Harbor because they weren't ready. I mean, Japan targets this market. Japan targets this market, and particularly this industry, especially when our defenses are down, like in a recession, and we deserve what we get, and that's the way the argument goes. And we heard plenty of that this week. No, we don't have to show any more patience toward Japan. None. It's a trap. We don't have to listen to any more phony excuses from Japan. We've heard them all too long now. It's also sad to hear Japan's propaganda mouthed over and over by some American editorial writers and columnists, including some in this city, which is hurting so badly right now. I don't get it. Can you imagine the Japanese guys? They don't get what the free press and the news are writing. And it's ironic because none of them have ever faced a single minute of foreign competition in their entire lives. Not even fair foreign competition. They don't know what the hell I'm talking about. But we have the local